Hi, so in today's video, I'll be telling you about people I came across. Anything I told you so far in the section Titanic, in the section of Piglet. Um, and I will tell you how some of the things actually worked in favor for me. So they appeared to be a struggle at once, but they happened to be the right thing. But I could just see how would they work out some of these things many years later. So um, if you're curious about further events from my book Piglet, then stay tuned and off we go. So I wanted to summarize it for you that, my Polish teacher, whom I liked, and I liked literature thanks to her. She happened to have a visit, and during that visit, I was kind of like, in my mind going over the questions like, why do I like her? So I don't know if I am related, if that visitation was because of me or not, but actually, it seems it highly possible was because of the questions that were appearing in my mind. Mm. And my professor had one of the degrees of further educational development stopped because one of the students used the same words that I used to use, which were of course unfair, but I didn't see it back then. So yeah, he also happened to, struggle. And Simon, there was a story from Britannia, the School of English, where we got the list of colleagues with their surnames. And that was the list in case we wanted to contact our friends, or in case, we wanted to meet for beer or ask for advice. So, Simon was my friend who was a native speaker and who was a person who had extrasensory perception developed, and he broke his arm, and therefore the list happened to be needed. But soon after that, we had in 2016 Rodo introduced. That's the story I didn't share yet, but when I used to go to drawing classes, one of the models was a very beautiful girl, very young, beautiful girl. I was young back then too. And in one moment in time, she just passed out. She fell off the podium, and nobody noticed, just me. And I didn't know what to do. And I also grasped it in the moment that people just weren't reacting. And after she fell off the podium, obviously that day she resigned from work. She wasn't posing anymore. So it's a longer story, but I'm pretty much sure that either she was Jewish, either she was just a person with extrasensory perception developed, which is not just, but she possibly was a person with extrasensory perception developed. So it seemed like she was there for me. I told you about my yoga instructor, Gosia, who, I loved her, and I used to go to top 800 in Tarnów, and I talked about how much I loved Gosia. And Gosia stopped working in yoga center. I told you about Frau Zawadzka in Germany. Frau Zawadzka actually gave me the job in a better hotel because a few years later I came back to get the work again. I got a different hotel and I wasn't shown what to do. So I started the job and I was left on my own all the time. And there were just a little bit, different rooms, worse quality rooms. It was harder for me to clean them. And that was my first working day. So I should be working with the second woman that was there with me, and she was gone all the time. So that tells me that Prauzavacka really honestly gave me a better hotel, which, the culture, the people over there were just, they were just, they were just great. And she stopped working. I don't know when exactly, but she stopped working the second time I got back to work. Then I also told you about Anthony Casse, and Anthony ran his own portal inside Poland, and I think that was his hard work because he has written also other books, and people would order some books from him. So I think this is what he did because he loved it, right? And all of a sudden he put his portal on sale, and he was gonna go to live on the boat. And then there were places that somehow happened to be relocated. So Tomek Alexei is a famous climber in Tarnów, and he used to be very close to center, where he had his center for little climbers and bigger climbers and so on. So he moved away from the city center a little bit further. Sorry Club experienced the same thing. So from the city center, I mean, it's still in the city center. The new Sorry Club is still in the center, but it's not where it used to be. And where it used to be, it was just big, and it was familiar to all of us, of course. But I have to tell you that I like very much the new Sorry Club too. So there was also Enjoy Club in Krakow, where I met my boss, and 2 floors were closed. Soon, when I got back after about 2 months to check, if I would get my sponsor over there to publish the book, and then it turned out that 2 floors were closed. And there was one more memory I haven't told you about. It's my drawing teacher, also from the city center, Witold Pazera. So started to learn painting, and that was soon before I would, go and study graphic design. So I used to go to Witold Pazera and his wife, and they were actually great teachers, very skilled people. And they told me they were closing. That was the last year. So, I think somebody just wanted to give me the recurring experience of the last the last atelier where you could go and have that space to come back. So I was as if the last year I was the last year when it comes to drawing classes in Youth Palace in Tarnów with Jacek Kucaba. So if I wanted to come back or just to visit from time to time as other people would visit him, then there was no chance for that. With Witold Pazera, it was the same. And during studies in Jagiellonian University, we were also the last year to study translation studies. But I'll tell you more about my diploma and what was written on my diploma, because that is peculiar too. So we were the last year, and the entire field of studies was closed, and somehow just moved to a different cathedral and with a slightly different name. So actually, I think that it's highly possible that Witold Pazera, together with his wife, that they have extrasensory perception developed, and the reason why I think they didn't want to close their activity in the main square of Tarnów is because they told me they would open their own atelier. They even asked if I would be willing to go there. So I think I have to check and check on them and go and visit. Yeah, and Let me just see. Okay. hmm So, what can I say? Well, I have to tell you what I have to tell you. It's worth helping, and if you want to, feel like you're a good person and know that you're a good person, and you don't just pay attention to, some external distractions and so on, or as Dean and Tony would say, new level, a new devil. Just um, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Um, yeah. And then I wanted to tell you also about the encounter with the orphanage I had. So I used to go there with my sister. That was her idea. But when I resigned just like that, she never asked me why when I stopped coming. But she asked me after a few years, why haven't I finished? And I think it would be really helpful to me to answer that question when I just, stopped. Then I possibly would come back. I don't know. But and there was a boy named Victor, and Victor was, he was a little bit naughty, and maybe he had some speech problems too. But I actually, make this faux pas the very first day when I had to help children with, eating the soup. So I said some bad words because I was just like looking at him like, what is he doing? Like the soup is on him on the floor, and maybe even it was on me. So I was like, oh dear. So soon, anyway, I started to make friends with him, and he got an opinion from a psychologist that he wasn't cooperative enough, and he was moved to a place where he would be, surrounded only by elderly people, and there was no chance for him to get adoption. And um, and I think I was lied to by my closest relative who said that she wanted to adopt him. I don't believe that. And basically, Victor was the reason why I stopped going there. Because, he was just so faithful. Like, he was in the mornings, he would just, welcome me. And when I was going back home, he would be like, also looking. So, yeah. But basically, when we look at the orphanage, that there were children, there was Casper who should be at least crawling or learning to walk, and he wasn't even moving from side to side. So he had some physiotherapist who would, come once a week or maybe twice a week, but he needed more work. There was a girl who was just a baby girl, like 1 year old, and she had a schizophrenia. And when I kept her in my arm, I felt something in my stomach. And basically, it looked like she would move her eyes up very, very often, and she wouldn't smile almost at all. So, just to give you a comparison, there was another boy who was named Kuba, and he was just adorable, cute, and smiling all the time. So we all liked him. And with Zuzia, it was just harder to connect to that baby because the baby was just a little bit, because of those eyes that would roll up like that. It would make you feel like, yeah. Um, so when you think about it, just children, newborn babies receive less attention, or less love, or less hugging, just to start with, in the orphanage. Yeah. And, I had also other examples of people I came across who got an opinion, like my student Marisha was about to be diagnosed for autism, and she also had a suicidal attempt. Um, so yeah, that's a difficult story when you're so young and um, so many things going on. I also wanted to tell you. Am I saying in this video? Yes. Okay. I also wanted to tell you about some things that I perceived as I perceived them as some misfortune when they were happening, but they actually turned out to be a very good thing that worked in favor for me. Like, starting with the beautician, it was a bigger issue in my life when I looked the way I looked, because my face was bigger. I had hair on my face, and even the skin barrier was lowered, as my beautician told me. And it was more reddish skin and more shiny, and it was very thin. So when sitting in front of the mirror, I would ask, why do I look like that? So, and it didn't change very quickly, because to change the structure of your face, to change the lines on your face, it takes time. So, I was desperate, and I was and when looking for, I would go to Miss Halinka, my beautician, and we would have those conversations where I would learn. I know I told you about it, but I learned that, she just couldn't do any rejuvenating procedure to me. And I was like, well, come on. Or she couldn't remove all my hair from my face. And I'm like, no, 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 you have to remove them all. Okay. But so, it didn't happen quickly. And it took me a lot of trying and a lot of, buying this serum with vitamin C and telling Miss Halinka that, I'm trying this out and it's got 100% of vitamin C. And she goes like, no, it doesn't. And I'm like, but yeah, but it does, but it says, but she was right. So um, I started to learn about the system, about lack of regulation of the products too. Like, it says something, that, it says on the packaging that you have 100% of the vitamin C, and it's highly, unlikely. Um, so yeah, so it was a long road where actually fasting and face gymnastic, I think, were the most effective. But for me, fasting was just, probably the best. So you have to work on it internally and externally, and and I had to search for and listen to a lot of podcasts to learn about it and to change it. But what actually also helped me was, just removing this emotional baggage of all those secrets that helped me a lot, and removing all that guilt helped me a lot too. Um, but I think, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't discover it if Miss Halinka agreed to give me that procedure. But if she agreed to give me that rejuvenating procedure, and if I saw it worked, then I would be really highly dependent on her, and it really helped me. Although in the moment when she refused me, I was just devastated. I really was. Because how come she had all those wonders and she knew what to do with them and she couldn't apply them on me? Well, how? Yeah. Mm. There were other examples, like, the book my brother-in-law gave my sister, Let Me Tell You a Story. I think there is this, elephant, the story of the elephant, where the elephant is attached to the tree, and there's this boy asking about the mystery of the elephant. Well, why doesn't he stand like that in the chains when he can just remove the tree with the, roots? And it turned out that the elephant was trying when he was little, and when he grew up, he just memorized that he couldn't do it. So I think it exposed me to a different imagery of the elephant, and the entire book actually separates ideas very, very strongly. So it depicts you duality very, very strongly. But from that book, and from the book CK Dezerterzy, um, I read an anecdote in this book about 3 types of psychotherapy when the man had this problem that he shat his own pants. So, in CK Dezerterzy, we read a lot of examples with shitty vocabulary too, because it's a, um, military book showing us the military life during peace. So both of these books actually helped me come up with the idea for my MA thesis. Or with the book cover of Piglet, I had my friend who agreed to work with me on it, on the book cover and on the layout, and I was sure we would be working together on marketing because, you earn from sales of the book. This is actually what happens if you put the work in, then you sell. If you don't put the work in, then you don't sell. But it turned out that she could do only the book cover and the layout, and she wouldn't like to do any marketing. So I worked out, that the percentage rate then doesn't make any sense. And she just left me from day to day like that. And, my belief was that she would do an excellent job and that I wouldn't make it without her. But just, it's not the first book cover I did wasn't the best actually, but my second book cover, I think I really, really like it, and I didn't even know I could do such a beautiful book cover. And this book cover is actually, it reminds me of Mickey Mouse and his shorts. So I have to sit down to analyzing my own book cover, I guess. But I really appreciate what happened on that book cover, and I think it was worth the wait. But of course, you are left with this, emotional makeup, standing helpless, thinking, "Oh no!" and never did watch it. And you go like this in your mind. Yeah, but I have to quote Tony here. But there's always a way. There's always a way. And I had the same with the proofreader. So here I'm looking for the way, and my way is Chandler Bolt. So here's what happened with Steven. So during that time when I had my best friend supposedly, agreed to work on my book, then I also had a native speaker, Steven, who agreed and promised me that he would make the error correction, but he didn't do it. And he told me that he had a lot of things going on in the house and he just couldn't make it, and he didn't know if he could even make it at all. So that wasn't really an explicit, answer. Like, what? Then I thought, okay, and then let's do not do it then. But actually, it was a very good thing that happened to me, because the version of the book I've sent to him wasn't the finished version. The book wasn't finished. That was the problem. Because if he started to work on it, if he sent it back to me, then I would have to pay for it, and I would have to pay for yet the version of the book that I would actually want to publish. But with the versions of Piglet, it's like it was changing, and still some things require of me to specifying here I was wrong, and here I'm sorry and I apologize. Vision. Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, Piglet needs some amends yet again. Um, so I think it really worked for me well, and um, and there were other examples too. Like I received opinions, an opinion from a psychiatrist, and then I had to stand up for myself and actually say, no, she's wrong. It appears like somebody who works for the court is an authority. It appears like a psychiatrist, a doctor is an authority, but they are not omniscient. And if your doctor has a surname Rakita, and then your lawyer has a surname Rakita, and then your flatmate has a surname Rakita, then what does it say? Well, so here I put a lot of work into doing actually self-analysis and looking at myself. And then I stood in front of a challenge where I actually got this label. It happened. And I was writing at the same time the book about witchcraft. So I believe one of the ways to undermine what people say is actually to claim they are mad. Yeah, that's pretty much a highly possible and plausible. Um, and there were other things that happened, like when I actually experienced some fear, like when going to service provider of the internet Vectra, and I signed that, I changed my phone number, my email address, and I changed it with the internet and TV, which I didn't have. So I got scared, and I do believe, and I saw it. It was with hypnosis. It was this very classical thing when you spread your hands on the how do I show this to you? Like this, and you keep the eye contact with that person that you want to hypnotize. So I believe that might have been hypnosis for me. That was hypnosis. So, excuse me. I experienced back then some fear, but now I know what for, because when you go to an institution, you just don't question them. You never do. You always assume, oh, this is my mistake, or I have overlooked something, or I haven't checked, or I have forgotten. But you would never approach the topic from this perspective, like, how about they are doing this on purpose? And sure thing, we want to feel safe, and that's totally all right, but just keep your facts together, and don't let them, like, climb it differently when it's not. But that wasn't the only situation when I experienced some fear and it actually worked for me. Like, when I bought the book to teach Polish, and then I went to an Indian girl, a girl from India in the city of Tarnov, very unlikely, but that was the ad saying that she wanted to learn Polish. So I opened the book to teach Polish, and then I went to teach her, and she was actually rather a gypsy girl, based, judging based on the way she looked. So it turned out that I should teach her maths and Polish and English, and um, in the book we used to teach her Polish, it was all the time about, three heads and a monster, and there were a lot of references to my life in that book. So, when I got back home, I started to realize that, the book to teach Polish that I prepared to, before the lesson with her, had a lot of references to Japan, and to other biblical, Adam and Eve, and hata kata, and it had a lot of vocabulary that was really advanced and that was really scary. I mean, the vocabulary was scary. The vocabulary was often colloquial. The vocabulary was often on a too high level. Like, it's not the vocabulary hata kata, cat, the person who kills. I mean, you don't teach that vocabulary on the very first lesson when you teach them the alphabet. And there are many more words, like, stuffed with meaning, presenting James Bond with with the gun and so on. I mean, yeah. So, um, because I was told it would be an Indian girl and it wasn't, I was like, okay. The gypsy witch was channeling me as usual, but you know what? I think it was meant to be, because otherwise I wouldn't open this course book. I wouldn't have another chance to teach this lesson from this course book, and I wouldn't grasp it like, oh, krzywy grzyby, oh my. And so what I wanted to tell you here is that it all somehow worked to my benefit. Even if I experienced some disadvantage at the beginning, and it felt like a horrible thing happened, like what's gonna happen with my book with no designer and no proofreader. Well, I still need a proofreader. That's the thing. I need the person I need, the service I need, but a lot of those situations actually worked for me better. Um, so I think this is some comfort for you too, because even if you experience some fear or some lower mood or something didn't go your way, actually it's probably happened for a reason. So it means that you may, for example, come up with a better book cover on your own, and then even take some pride in it that you made that book cover. Yeah. Okay. So Piglet is on sale, and um you what do I want to tell you about Piglet? The way it functions for now is that you can get it, pay for Piglet using Stripe, and then you have to still send me a message so that I could send you to your email a PDF version of Piglet. And then the price is growing every day, $1 every day. So I think it's best to hurry and just have the best deal ever. And so is Amelia. Amelia is also growing. So the sooner you make up your mind, the better deal you will have. And you'll find the links in the description of this film on my website, Instagram, Facebook account. And yeah, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.